Hey everybody, how you doing? It's 12 o'clock, so you know what that means. It's lunchtime talk with Steve. Today we have Kirk Gillon on the on well actually on the air with us. I was going to say on the phone, but he's not on the phone. He's actually live here with us. We are going to talk to him about some of the documentaries that he has done, and even about winning the Emmy Award. So that's a really big thing. That's a huge thing. All right. So let's get back with you in just a moment. We're going to talk to Kurt. In the meantime, take this time to go ahead and just share with your friends, your relatives, on your favorite groups on Facebook. Just let them know that Steve is on. All right. We'll be right back with you.
Hey guys, I'm on my way to the office. I can't believe there's so much traffic out there. Just remember, if you get involved in a car accident during this quarantine, give me a call. Our attorneys are gonna fight for you. They're gonna assess the case, find solutions to your problems. Now you know, call me. My phone number is right up there or down there. Now you know.
All right, there we go. We are back. All right, so today we have Kurt Gillon on the line with us. And Kurt, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's been a while since I've seen you.
It's been a long time, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
2015, I guess. Last time I
Yeah,
saw you.
yeah, over on Fort Lauderdale Beach with
Yeah.
Arnold Abbott. He was feeding the homeless, and you were
Yeah.
doing a documentary then on homeless.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us, let's go ahead and start first by introducing yourself to our viewers, letting them know a little bit more about you and what you do. What is Kurt all about?
Well, I'm Kirk. I'm originally from North Carolina. Started shooting film years ago, kind of by accident, and I've been doing it ever since. But I'm all about taking people's stories and exposing them, showing people what other folks are doing out there, positive things, and what they're championing for, what they're fighting for, and that's my passion, I think. So.
I like that. I like that. And by the way, I like the Black Lives Matter in the back. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a huge cause right now, and again, I think that people need to be fighting for each other, and now's the time that this is the cause. Black Lives Matter is what the whole world needs to be moving towards, to equality. And if you're not on board, you've got to get on board. So that's what I say. Yeah. So.
Well, let me ask you, and I mean, this was not part of the interview, but let me ask you, as a white male in America, what does it mean for you to say Black Lives Matter? What does that mean to you?
Well, it means to me that I support African Americans and the cause that they're struggling for equality. I mean, I can never say, "Oh, I understand," because I'm not walking in someone's shoes or driving down the road in fear every day of being pulled over, and I don't have no idea what that's like. What I can do is say, I support you, I love you, and I'll do whatever I can to push the cause and to make things better for everybody. And that's what it's all about. And being a documentary filmmaker is about exposing those things and teaching people and listening. I mean, what a lot of people need to do is listen. Listen to the Black community, to your neighbors. Listen. That's so important. Steve, I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now?
Okay, I got you now. Yeah, I got you.
Okay, perfect. Um, uh, See, these are the things with live streams, you know. So tell me a little bit about and winning the Emmy Award, and how did that make you feel? What was the project that you worked on that you won the Emmy Award?
Well, it's very important for me just for the backstory. I moved to Portugal back in 1990, based out of Lisbon, Portugal for almost 13 years, and worked as a cinematographer, traveled and got my experience. I was in my 20s, and I came back to the US, and I'd never worked at a TV station. I worked at a local affiliate out of South Carolina, and Mark Bradley was the director. I was Robbie, actually another producer, and then I was a cinematographer. And we won an Emmy, and I hadn't been in the States for probably a year. It was called Blitz on 2. It was an advertisement for the sports department, but it was a local affiliate, Emmy out of Atlanta, Georgia. And it was a big deal at the time. It's been a long time ago, 2004. But for anybody, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a high school diploma or college diploma, whatever, being rewarded for your efforts for anything you do, no matter how big or small, I think it's very important, and we should value that.
All right, and that's good. Now, when we met, you were working on a documentary with about the homeless. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Breaking Bread, Arnold Abbott, back in 2014, was arrested for feeding the homeless. And at the time, I live in Denver, Colorado now, but at the time I was living in Florida, and I found it so appalling that a man would be arrested, much less a 91-year-old man who fought in World War II and was a veteran. And so I grabbed my camera and started following him and filming him, and with his blessing, he let me, stay pretty close and tell his story, and rode in the car with him when he's driving around to these different places. And at the same time, it was difficult because that film I shot on my own. I didn't have funding from anybody, and I'm very fortunate that starting years ago as a cinematographer, cameraman, and then editing my own pieces, and then producing my own pieces, I can grab a camera and go out and follow a story without calling an entire crew, without a lot of money, and try to turn around a project that's worthy of honoring his story, which was an amazing one. So, and we're just wrapping that up. Actually, it's been 5 years, and there was a little memorial out there for him in March. in Fort
Yes.
Lauderdale, and I filmed there, and that's the last of it. So we're that close to getting it completed. It's called Breaking Bread.
And when you complete that one and you're ready to release it, I would hope that you come back on the show and you talk to us about that, because that was a really good. I mean, just being out there with the people and seeing the things that Arnold Abbott was doing. I mean, he was a remarkable man, you know. And I mean, we really lost a good person here in Fort Lauderdale when he passed.
That's right. And he, you know, I was going to do this small story about him, you know, small film. And, you know, after research, at the time, it was illegal to feed people in 77 cities in America. It was, I filmed it in DC, I filmed in New York. I ended up kind of going everywhere to try to tell this story on a broad scale, but leaving Arnold is kind of the I guess he would be the poster child, if you will, even though he was 91. He was the poster child for feeding the homeless and the hungry. So,
And you know, and when you think about it, it's so crazy to hear in words that it's illegal to feed people.
right.
It's like,
and you go to other cultures and countries, and sharing food is part of the culture.
Yeah.
You share with each other. You don't take away. You know, so I just, you know, we live in a wonderful country with wonderful opportunities. Yet, you know, there are some things here we need to change, along with helping the homeless and helping folks that are in the disadvantaged side of life. So.
Because I tell you, if it was illegal to feed people in my neighborhood in Barbados, I tell you, my grandmother would have gone to jail, because she fed anybody. She didn't care who you were. If you were one of our friends hanging around the house and it was time for dinner, she didn't say go home. You know, she put food there for you. So so you know, and that's what we're taught. That's how we grew up. That, you know, you are your brother's keeper. You're supposed to do for someone that you see that doesn't have it. You're supposed to help them. And then we turn around and we see where it's illegal to feed them. Now, I want to ask a question, because this is something that was really strange to me. Is it that it's illegal to feed them in that area, or is it illegal to feed them in Fort Lauderdale? Because when I see people feeding by the library, by Fort Lauderdale Library, they're not really harassed or hassled like Arnold was when he was feeding on the beach. So is it because it was a tourist area that he was feeding, or, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, what happened was Mayor Seidlin, I guess at the time, they had changed the law in Fort Lauderdale that you couldn't feed in public parks. So at the time, the beach was considered a park, and there was another park in Fort Lauderdale, I can't remember the name now, where Arnold fed, and they changed this law that you can't feed people there. They're trying to push the homeless community, kind of brush them under the rug, and thinking that by stopping the feedings or saying that it's illegal, they would leave. Of course, they didn't leave, and Arnold told, you know, the city, "Hey, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm not going to stop now." And of course, that's where they butted heads, and the Fort Lauderdale officials obviously arrested him or ticketed him or whatever, and that backfired. Obviously, that, you know, that didn't work, and Arnold didn't leave. So in March was the last feeding of the group. Obviously, Arnold passed away, I believe, a year before, and they did a little memorial for him, and then they moved it to a church. So it's not there on the beach anymore like it used to be.
Right. Yeah, it used to be Wednesdays on the beach on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I remember that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And but I'm very passionate about the underdog and people change their community. And there's an image over my shoulder on this side, another film that I'm working on with producers Gene Bergman and Jennifer Bergman out of West Palm Beach, and I'm a producer as well. But the film's called Hope Dealer, and it's about a young black man trying to change his community in West Palm Beach, where black men don't live over 25, or they end up in prison or they're dead. And that community up there around West Palm Beach, and the Tamarind community, is more deaths than Chicago if you look at per 100,000 folks. And it's amazing what he's done there in trying to change his community. And so Gene and Jennifer Bergman followed him for a few years, and then they came to me about editing the project and putting together a cohesive story, and that's almost complete. We actually did some filming the other day with Ricky Akins, and InnerCityInnovators.org. InnerCityInnovators.org is his organization. If anybody wants to follow Ricky and see what he's doing up there in West Palm Beach, please log on and check it out.
So what got you really into fighting for the underdog? What made you get up one day and say, you know what? I mean, because really the projects that you work on, they're great projects, and they're really needed in the community, and they're needed in this country. And we see it more now today that it's needed than any other time. But again, with the kind of backing that you have, and the kind of the kind of exposure that you have, you could have easily gone to one of the other kind of projects, and like we see on TV all the time, whether it's out on the Serengeti and following the zebras and the gazelles. What made you decide to say I'm gonna fight for the rights of all Americans?
I wouldn't have the patience, first of all, to be out in the Serengeti. It's beautiful out there. But most of those filmmakers are biologists and people that study animals, and that's their connection, and that's what they do. But for me, I don't know. I grew up this very compassionate kid, middle class, I guess, sort of, but had a lot of different, super shy, a lot of different friends, but at the same time grew up with families aren't perfect, and sometimes we look out and think that they are, and then you realize that yours isn't, and a lot of other people's isn't. But I just became a very compassionate person for human suffering and the people that are fighting for a cause, and it's what I do. I mean, I'm not sure how to describe it. You can't really. It's hard to walk in someone's shoes, but you have to get up off the couch and get out there and learn about people and understand people. And I think that's so important in life in general. You don't have to be a documentary filmmaker to support local folks and community and help give back. And it's as a documentary filmmaker, it's my way of giving back.
All right. So tell us a little bit about, and I don't know how much you want to go into about any of your future projects or any other things that you might want to be, you want to look at. You said, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm current. So I live in Denver, Colorado now. I moved there 4.5 years ago. But I'm actually here in Florida. I've set up shop here for about 3.5 months now. So I drove down from Colorado when COVID-19 hit. I thought, about, what can I do besides just sit back and do nothing? So the first 3 or 4 weeks during the lockdown, starting around March 16th, 17th, each week I would shoot a small film, 3-minute film. I would film it under 2 hours on an iPhone about someone giving back to the community. And you can go to youtube.com/Kirk Gillon and see some of those films. But I was calling the series Extraordinary Humanity. And I did 3 or 4 pieces about people giving back in the Denver community. Then I heard about how the Palm Beach County area was suffering everybody's suffering, but I thought it was interesting, Palm Beach County, and then you've got the economy of Palm Beach, and then right across the water, the super wealthy, and then right across the waterway, everybody, you know, that works in the hospitality industry, they're working in the for hotels, restaurants, whatever. Suddenly nobody has a job. So I'm thinking, you know, this is interesting. So I packed up my edit suite that's sitting behind me, cameras, and drove from Colorado for 3 days, got here April 9th. And I've been kind of embedded telling a story. I don't even have a title for the film yet, but telling the story of what's happening in West Palm Beach, or in Palm Beach County. I filmed out in Pahokee, but it's something about Palm Beach, Mar-a-Lago being right there. Super contrast when you get to Palm Beach County. I felt like that was an important story to tell, and it was amazing. There's a gentleman, you know, well, besides small groups, you've got Feeding South Florida, you've got large groups that have tried to feed and help the hungry. It kind of comes back to that again for some reason, but amazing things that they're doing. Had to ramp up their operations to feed even more. And then there was one gentleman who is an entrepreneur, restaurateur, Rodney Mayo. He had to lay off, you know, 700 employees, and then suddenly he was like, I can't just sit back. And he opens 501(c) Hospitality Helping Hands, opens 4 restaurants just to prepare hot meals and give away. And they were giving away 2,000 meals per day out of each restaurant. So it's amazing how people just step up. You know, you can sit back on your couch and do nothing, or you can be proactive and step up and create change and help create change. So he ended up feeding over, you know, several 100,000 people over the last, you know, weeks since March, and also grocery drive once a week, and 1,200, you know, 2,000 families driving through and getting groceries. And it's amazing. On Southern Boulevard, there's a bridge that goes over. On the top of that bridge, you saw this line going down, and in the horizon, you know, Mar-a-Lago and Palm Beach there, and the contrast.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Because and as a matter of fact, I had Annie Eiffel on here. She is a project director over at Healthier Glades, and she was also at another group before that in the Belgrade Pahokee area, which was Bridges of Palm Beach. And that's one of the things that we were talking about, is the contrast between the east side and the west side of Palm Beach. Most people think that, oh, you live in Palm Beach, you live where John Travolta lives, and you know, you have the aeronautics area of your complex where everyone has a plane and a hangar, and the equestrian area where everyone has a stable. But most people don't realize that there are 2 sides to Palm Beach. And you know, you have the Belgrade and Pahokee area where, I mean, I've driven through some of those areas and walked through some of those areas, and some of those houses that I thought were abandoned are actually houses that people live in. I mean, it's like it's to the point where people don't realize the poverty of this country, because and that's another thing. Is it because we don't want to see it, or is it that we just want to believe that it couldn't happen in America? What do you think the reason is that people just, I don't know. What do you think it is?
You know, that's a hard question. I don't have the answers to that, but I think that you know, America is kind of not a product, but it's put out there as being the greatest place and whatever. And we are a great country, and we have created a lot of opportunities, but it is hard to imagine poverty, you know, the way, I mean, and Pahokee is one of the poorest areas in the country, or the Native Americans that suffer. I mean, that's another film completely. You have to have access, but you know, so many people suffer in this country. I don't know why people ignore it, but I think that's why myself and people like myself make films is to hopefully educate, help bring a subject to the forefront and let people understand what's really going on out there. And it's so important today, especially.
So tell me what it was like when you got the you got the how did you find out that you won the Emmy? Did you or how did you find out you were even nominated? Did you get a phone call? Did they send you something in the mail?
Yeah, it was a local TV station. I believe we got notified by mail that we had been nominated, and then it's funny, I wasn't even at the I didn't even go to the ceremony. I wasn't even there. But I was surprised and not surprised. We had a lot of fun making that spot. And it was a little TV station. It's not something that happens to them. And then I had been back in the States after 13 years, and I'd only been back a year and a half. So that was just something really gratifying for me to get back. But, other than something like that, I think awards are it's an event. It's something that happens. But so rewarding for me is being able to do what I do. I'm fortunate, very fortunate. But, the big reward is meeting people and finding their stories and being able to do that and taking the time and it's hard. This business is hard. It's not an easy business to be in, but it's very, very rewarding in terms of the connections you meet and the strong people you meet out there fighting for whatever cause they're fighting for. And any young folks out there that want to be a filmmaker, if you want to be a filmmaker to be famous and rich like Steven Spielberg, then maybe you should be a doctor. But if you want to really learn and help people, and if you want to help champion others people's ideals and push their agendas forward and for the betterment of others, or find people's stories and just expose them, then it's a wonderful thing. I've traveled to, I don't know, over 36 countries.
Wow.
I've filmed in some really crazy places. I snuck into Burma one time in 1993 from Thailand to tell a story about the Kering, and kind of some crazy stuff. But I look back and I'm so fortunate, and very happy with what I'm doing. And the older I get, the more I'm happy I'm here in the States, shooting more films here and not traveling so much too. As long as my health, my body and my health and my eyes let me keep doing what I'm doing, I'll never retire. I'll keep making films. So.
That's good. That's good, and we look forward to them. So you said you've been to over 36 countries. Which one would you say is your favorite one? Where did you enjoy going to?
Well, I lived in Portugal, and I've got three sons. My two older ones live there, and so hi, Andre and Stephen, if you're watching, I love you guys. So proud of them. But Andre lives in Scotland now, and Stephen lives in Portugal. So Portugal's obviously one of my favorites. I speak the language, and I'm connected with the people there. In 1993, I went to Southeast Asia for the first time, and just then and today, I fell in love with Vietnam. Vietnam and its people are just amazing, and I'm super connected there. And I actually just got married to a Vietnamese woman who lives in Saigon, and she's stuck there, by the way, and I'm here and she's there. But
because of the COVID-19?
COVID-19, yeah. So, but it's so important just to get up and travel and see things and understand cultures and try to understand how people live. And America isn't the world. Obviously, here, a lot of us live here and feel like it is, and we all live in our own bubble and have our thing. But we can learn so much by just getting off the couch and getting out there and traveling, even if it's across the state line. You don't have to go to another country, but we've got plenty of states and plenty of folks to learn about here in our own country. So.
And how do you feel that you were received as an American? Do you think that people were like, you know, how was your reception? And I'm gonna have a part two to that question in a second. When you went to all these different countries, how were you received as being American?
I very well, and I think it's the attitude. If as a foreigner you go into someone's country, or if you go into somebody's house, for that matter, if you're receptive just to communicate with them and talk to them, you know, I would attempt. I was in Nepal 2 years ago shooting a film called Ramu, and 28 days I learned several words in the language and would communicate with a lot of people that their English was rough. Some of them were supposed to very good English, but I think important is eye contact, trying to learn a word, even asking them to teach you something, and you make that personal connection. And it's so important. If you go there and you're not willing to learn and you don't want to try the food, you want to go to McDonald's, well, there wasn't a McDonald's in Nepal, but if you're in Thailand and you want to go to McDonald's and not try, you know, a noodle soup or something, then the locals there aren't going to respect you as much. So it's about getting out there, at least trying to communicate. So I was well received, because that's my personality, is very much getting out there and getting to know the people.
Now, the part two to that question is, with the different tweets that we've seen from from the president over the past 3 years, 3.5 years, how do you feel now you'd be received by a lot of the countries that
Well, it's, you know, I don't want to get too much into politics, because this country, I believe anybody can, they're free to pull for whoever they want to pull for. But I can say that in my experience, that right now this president's not very well received, and it's kind of a laughing stock to some, you know, and then but some they're not. You know, there's for example, I know many people from the immigrant community, Vietnamese immigrant community here in America. You know, they're here 20 or 30 years, and they ran from a war, and they came here illegally. And so a lot of these folks, they're happy for Trump and his ideals on legal immigration and those things. So it really depends on where you come from and how you see it. And what's so great about this country is we're free to believe in what we want to believe and support what we want to support. But I can't say that right now our president isn't very very well liked in a lot of places. So I think the important thing is, you know, a lot of people get out there and just talk trash and to do whatever, and you know, it's so important. November 3rd is an election. Register to vote and create your change. And so instead of talking the talk, walk the walk. Get out there and vote. It's so important, you know, and that's where the change is going to come. And I hope that when November comes around, we can change some things that are going on in the country right now. So
exactly, and you know, definitely that was well said, because a lot of people are out there protesting and marching and all these different things. But I keep telling them all the time, if you're not marching to the polls, then it doesn't make sense.
And on the local level, you know, we need to, you know, a couple Sundays ago, a lot of people didn't hear about it. I'm surprised it didn't make national news, but in West Palm Beach, folks were tear gassed and had rubber bullets shot at them, and a young journalist got on video. He was maced. The police came after him and maced him, and these things shouldn't be happening. And how do you change that? Yeah, protesting is great, but also write your local city commissioners, reach out to your police chief in a non-violent way, obviously, but reach out to them and about change and get involved in your local government. And that's how things change at a local level. And then obviously up into a federal level, that's how it can change too. But again, you can talk the talk, but you walk the walk, but you've got to be able, or talk the talk. You got to be able to walk the walk, and that means voting. So,
yeah, because right now, and we're actually going to have some candidate forums coming up on Saturdays, because normally during the week I'm only on for an hour, but we're going to have some candidate forums coming up on Saturdays where we can take that 2-hour time slot, or even a 3-hour when we need it, because some of the races here in Broward County are some of them are pretty packed. Like sheriff, I believe we have probably about 9 people running right now for sheriff of Broward County. We have so many different people running for different positions. So what I want to do is I want to be able to introduce them to the people, let people know what they're all about, and not to tell them which one to vote for, but at least we can give you all 9 of them that you can ask questions, you can hear what they stand for, and then you can be well informed when you go to the polls.
Right, and that's great that you're doing that, because a lot of people don't have an avenue to learn, or with COVID, a lot of people are just shut in too and not getting out. I know things are starting to open up, but there's a lot of caution out there too. And making a film during that, during COVID has been quite a challenge of, some of the new rules, and not rules, but you create kind of common sense. How do you conduct an interview? I did an interview yesterday. We didn't put a lavalier microphone on them. We had a boom mic over their head, and we just kept 6 feet of distance, and very small footprint. It was myself, another cameraman, and an audio person. That was it. And the small footprint really lets you get around and to kind of make those things happen. So.
And now you can even do more interviews and different things remotely too, which makes it much easier.
You can, but I'm a cinematographer by trade, right?
True. So yeah,
I want to get out there and light it and make it look good, and there's something more personal. You meet a complete stranger, and you're going to talk to them about, kind of dig into their lives and ask questions, and especially when you imagine, I was filming people sitting in a food line in cars, and I would get them to roll the window down, got a mask on so they can only see my eyes. They can't see if I'm smiling. They can't see if I'm receptive. So that's intimidating already. And then you're going to talk to them about being in a grocery line. And if they gave you permission, and many did, it's amazing how many people had never been in a food line ever. Yeah. And they're put in this position where they've lost their job. They're having to survive. And of course, lucky to have folks, giving food away to help. It's a very humbling, experience to meet those people and to be able to tell the stories and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, because even like when we met on Fort Lauderdale Beach and talking to some of the homeless people that were there, and to hear them, there was actually, I remember there was a lady that was there with her daughter, and her daughter was about 12 years old, if I remember correctly, and speaking to them, and she was saying that she still lives at home, she still has a house, but she just couldn't afford food, and she was so happy because they would come over to the beach on Wednesdays and eat from Arnold, because you remember he had the gourmet food. I mean,
oh yeah,
he didn't just give people a sandwich or anything. He would give you gourmet food because, and for the people that don't know, he actually owned a culinary school and a restaurant, so they were able to really give you good food that you would go and sit in a restaurant and pay $50-$60 for a plate. And here he was feeding the homeless, so this lady and her daughter would come over to him, and they would go other places and eat as well. And it was just, it was an eye opener for me, because I mean, I've fed the homeless with my church before and different things, but to actually sit and have a conversation with someone it's really different, you know.
And what's amazing about Arnold is, besides just feeding people, he his culinary school was there to, or most of the students were folks that had gotten out of jail, that or whatever, they're trying to get back on their feet in their life, and they can get a certificate to work in a restaurant so they could get a job. So besides feeding people, he's teaching people how to cook. He's giving folks that need a hand up the opportunity to move on with their lives and make their lives better. And there's just nothing better than that. It's amazing the opportunities he helped create in the Lauderdale community and everywhere in the end. And he's missed. I've lost the audio again, but let me see this out.
Oh no, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. One of the things too that I really encourage people to do, I mean, because people seem to think that, oh well, you have to be someone of a certain level or a certain stature in order to do things. And I encourage people to just get out there and do things, because Arnold actually had other things too that were out there, where they were doing like small pouches with toiletries and different things like that for some of the homeless people. And what's so crazy is I never really thought about a lot of those things that I saw out there that they had. Feminine products for women, because just because a woman is homeless doesn't mean she doesn't get a period every month. Again, we never thought about these things. So I always use every opportunity to tell people, reach out and see how you can help. There are a lot of you out there that can help. Please reach out, see how you can help.
There's so much that all of us can do, and again, it is about just getting off the couch and advocating for people and helping people and walking in someone else's shoes just a little bit. And again, like you said, people in a food drive, they're out to get food, but if they can't afford food, they can't afford food for their pets. They cannot afford diapers. So a lot of these drives have diapers, food for pets. There are a lot of different ways and things that if you're someone that loves animals and you have access to a lot of dog food, then when you give food away to a shelter, then maybe dog food should be involved, pet food, cat food, because a lot of people have pets and can't even afford to feed them. But what's so important, I think, is anybody can give back to their community and help people champion their causes, or create your own cause to champion and to spread joy and peace and love amongst all of us. And it's so important.
So what's next for you, Kirk?
What's next? Keep making films. I'm so Hope Dealer. So Breaking Bread's coming out. Ramu, which is a film I shot in Nepal, is coming out. This film I'm working on right now, I hope to have done by August. Mm-hmm. And then I don't know. Since 1997, I've written, I guess around 9 or 10 screenplays, like feature films that I've never really produced. I've always worked as on a lot of documentary type pieces or commercials back in the day, music videos. Now it's documentaries, and I would love to shoot a feature film. I'm not sure when that will happen, but it's a matter of me just changing gears and saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and then just do it. It's so important these days. We can dream about trying to do something, or we can just try to make it happen. And that's where I am now in terms of that phase of maybe not just doing documentaries, but creating some other kinds of content, and seeing where that goes. So, but right now, I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm enjoying living there. I'm enjoying the weather and palm trees down here, so I'm considering maybe moving back. I like Florida a lot, and the folks down here and everything. So,
All right, awesome. Movement said, "Let's do it." John T. Baker.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, someone that I really admired. He's not around anymore. Was Anthony Bourdain, and his zest for life. And there was this kind of quote that he said in the past, and I really try to live by that. And I think that all of it, it's a good quote for everybody. But it's, I think he said, if I'm an advocate for anything, it's to move as far as you can, or even if it's across the river. The important thing is to try to walk in somebody else's shoes, or at least eat their food. He was all about the food and sharing food. Sharing food it's a plus for everybody. It opens your mind. It gets you off the couch and move, and that's everything with life. But even you'd spoken about being received in a foreign country. I could not, for example, if I didn't speak their language. I worked on a project where we had Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, German, England from England, and then myself, American, Brazilian, all at one table. And some people couldn't speak each other's language, but we all sat down at a table and enjoyed a meal together. and that's a common language.
Yes.
And trying someone else's food is a common courtesy in language, and it's so important. And whether you're in a foreign country, or whether you're at home with teenage kids and you're not communicating very well. Of course, we all have busy lives. We're on our phones, technology, work, school, but create, one time a day or once every other day, try to sit down at a table with your family, put the phones aside. And it might be awkward if you're not normally doing that, but after some time, you're going to start talking to each other and learning about what your teen kids are doing. And sitting at a table with folks is so important, and having a meal and putting your electronics away. And I think that's the key to life right there, and communicating with strangers, is sitting over, having a meal, breaking bread. And that's the name of the film for Arnold's film. It's called Breaking Bread. So important.
Yeah. And as you can see, food is a language I know all too well. My favorite language.
I'm lucky, my friend, because I have this high metabolism. I can eat anything, and but I think it's because I am always on the move. I probably sleep 5 hours a day. I've got so many things I want to try to accomplish, and never can seem to have the time in the day to do them. But anyway.
Yeah, but there's a lot that we that we can do in order to communicate, and definitely food is one of them. I like that idea. And John saying again, oh, they ate when they built the Tower of Babel. We can do it. Hey, what happened to the tower though? But hey, we can do it though.
Yeah, man.
We can do it. So I thank you, Kirk, very much for being here with me. I mean, you're awesome. We've seen some. Well, I've seen you out there talking to the people. You know what? When I spoke to you last, the project you were working on at the time, I believe, which was the Breaking Bread, but you were doing some stuff with the homeless, right? And didn't you spend some time out with the homeless as well?
Yeah, and that's part of Breaking Bread. So I started another project about the homeless down in Miami. And there's a gentleman, and now I'm completely drawing a blank. He's from Orlando. He's a teacher. He was kind of like your secret shopper in Walmart or something. But he would go undercover and rate homeless shelters for the state. He started doing that as his own project, and the state started bringing him in and doing it. So I stayed with him 2 days, 2 or 3 days. I had a small camera, and got out there with him and threw my wallet, hid my wallet in my car, and let my beard grow out a couple days. And I spent 2 days on the streets with him. And in Miami, and that was quite eye-opening. And the folks you meet out there, some are chronic homeless. They were there for 30 or 40 years, and you know, a lot of this with the homeless, a lot of people don't want to be out there. Some you would think want to be. Obviously, I don't think anybody really wants to be. But the big problem with this in America right now is the mental health crisis. You know, there's a crisis here. Well, I would say there are two. Besides, in the middle of a pandemic, there are two epidemics: mental health and hunger. Hunger, you can feel the sense of hunger, but your body's reaction to hunger is a medical condition, so that can be clarified as an epidemic. But mental illness is too, and without facilities to help folks, you have people on the streets and they're stuck out there. And so another thing to vote for, to try to advocate for, is more mental health facilities in our local communities to help these people. They were all babies. They all cried once. We have to have compassion for these people and to try to help them any way possible. You don't have to be religious. You don't have to, a lot of people that are feeding out there, Christians or whatever, you don't have to be. You can be, I consider myself a Buddhist, but it doesn't matter. Just get out there and help people, and that's how we change the world, and that's how we make it a better place. So,
definitely. As always, I try to get people to get out there and help as much as possible, because one day it could be us that need that help. So we really have to get out there and help. So you said that you went undercover with the gentleman for 2 days. How deep undercover did you go? I mean, when you were hungry, did you stop off at McDonald's, or did you just what did you do?
Well, we would go to McDonald's, but we would also, I was filming too, and I had an audio recorder, and because of wiretapping laws, I couldn't go into a homeless shelter. But I followed him up until he went into a homeless shelter to try to get in, for example, and he couldn't get in. They said there was a 2-day wait. So imagine you're someone who can't go to a homeless shelter, who becomes homeless, and you think you're going to be able to get into a shelter, but it might take you 3 or 4 days. What are you going to do? You're going to sleep under a bridge, or you're going to sleep in the street. So, and I followed another group. They call it the Love Truck, I believe that's in Miami. That they're a mobile truck that feeds people. And there's one more. I know we're running out of time, but the gentleman I met down there, he was in his upper 50s. He had made some bad decisions in his life, drugs and some of those things, but he was clean, getting his life together. And I was amazed by this man. He was going to college and getting his college degree while homeless, living under a bridge.
Wow.
Excuse me. And he graduated in 2016. And it amazed me the sheer will he had to change his life while homeless, studying, writing papers by hand, or going into the library and typing it on a computer. He would use the school's gym to shower every day, and still having the sheer willpower to be able to do that. And we're all human beings, and we all can end up in situations, and a lot of people seem to look down upon these folks, and obviously you've got bad apples out there, but I think a lot of it really is mental illness. And when you look at it as an illness, do we turn people with cancer away, with heart disease away? No, we don't. And so these folks need advocates. They need people to help them. And I think that's why a lot of these recent projects seem to lean towards, feeding the hungry, or helping folks that aren't being treated fairly. And right now, this country is coming to a huge crossroad in terms of change. And back to there's a reason why I put Black Lives Matter up there, because we all need to get involved in this, whoever's watching, and support change in this country right now. So.
Mm-hmm. And one just made a comment saying he agreed. If we help one, then we'll be better. Let's see. So one actually has a documentary, and I'll tell you the link to that later on. He was on the show about 3-4 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
And he's from Cuba, but he lives in Spain now, and he did a documentary in Cuba about people of Barbadian descent, because a lot of people, his family from Barbados are descendants of Barbadians, and a lot of them went over to Panama to build the canal, and then went over to Cuba. And I mean, it was a great documentary, and it was his first one that he ever did with limited supplies in the middle of Cuba, so it was really good. So so Juan, he was on my show. He spoke about that, but very, very good guy, very good documentary. So I'll send you the link so you can look at it.
I want to see that. And when are we going back? You and me. I want to go back with you to your country. We can hang out. I know this is your country, but you're originally from the island.
Barbados. Yeah.
I've never been out there, so let's go. You and me. I'll take a camera.
Yeah, we should do that. We definitely should do that. Go and do a documentary on Barbados or something.
Do a documentary on the food.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. As you can see, I'm really good at that.
I'm right with you, my friend.
I was gonna actually start another show about 2-3 years ago. I was looking at a show going around to restaurants and doing like a food critic, and then I was gonna have the show was gonna be called Fat Man Approved. So if I like it, it'll be Fat Man Approved with 2 thumbs up kind of thing, But then the thing about that is if you give it a negative review, then you have to look at the repercussions that come with that. So that was, I shot that idea down really quick. But but this is really good, because what I like to do is I like to bring information to the community. I like to let people know that, like, for example, you're out there and what it takes for you to create that documentary. We see things and we see it on TV or Netflix, and we only see a half an hour or an hour, and we're like, okay, cool. But we don't realize the work that it takes to go behind it. It could take years.
And here's the thing, it's access. So what do you have access to? There was a movie, Icarus, that was made, and a gentleman wanted to do a film about Lance Armstrong and doping, but he didn't have access to Lance Armstrong. But he was a cyclist, so he tried to get away with doping himself. So making a film is about access, and anybody with a phone can make a film. You don't have to be a pro. You've got a computer. You can even edit on your phone, and just document what's important to you. If it's saving cats, if it's your local community church helping feed people, if it's about your teacher, if it's about your mother, your uncle, or your brother, anybody can take a phone and tell a story. And so having access to a story to teach other people, I encourage it. And it's so much fun. You meet a lot of great folks.
Yep, definitely. So we'll chat a little bit later on about some other things, and I'll definitely send you the link to Juan's documentary so you can take a look at that. And let's see what we could put together. Maybe we can go to Barbados and do something on the food.
Let's do it. But I'm in town for a few more weeks. So you and we got to get together and chat in person.
Definitely. I'll give you a call after the show.
Okay, good to talk to you.
All right,
thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on the show. All right.
Yeah, and just remember,
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Kirk. I appreciate it, and that really means a lot to see you put that on there. It does. All right, thanks.
You're welcome. All right.
Hey guys, so there you go. You had another hour with me and with Kirk, and you saw the things that he's doing. I mean, his documentaries are awesome. You got to when Breaking Bread comes out, you guys got to make sure you watch that one. All right, we'll have him back on the show again when it comes out, so we can talk to him about some of the things. Get his feedback, or actually find out what the audience feedback was on it. All right, so it's coming up on the 1 o'clock hour, which means it's time for me to get back to work. So let's do this then. Let's go out there. Let's take care of each other. Let's try to help someone. All right. Again, like I said, you are your brother's keeper. If you see someone that's trying to get to the food line and they don't have a car, help them out. Take them. If you don't want to take them in your car, or if you don't feel safe taking a stranger in your car, go and get the food for them and bring it back for them. There's so many ways to help because we see these food lines all the time, but we never see the people walking up getting food. It's a person with their car and they pop the trunk and they put it in. But what about the people who don't have a car? They need your help too. And again, there's so much that we see every day. We see the homeless people on the streets. Listen, buy a pack of chips or whatever you can afford, and just hand it to them. Because one day it could be you, or it could be me, it could be any one of us. We are our brother's keeper. All right. So once again, it's 1 o'clock. It's the time for me to head out of here and get back to work. Deanza, she said each one help one, definitely. And Deanza is going to be actually her group is going to be on the show next Tuesday. So we're going to be on the show talking about substance abuse in Barbados and what the government is doing to help. All right. So let's make this happen, people. Let's go out there and help each other. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Once again, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Peace, people. La